Well, I
What do you
definitely
believe
don't
in the
believe
Bible?
in Jesus.
Okay, that's cool.
Do you,
Why
uh,
not?
why
I'm
not?
just curious
I
and
think the
stuff.
better question is why? Why would I? Because I'm not 10, okay? Because, I mean, it's obviously an ancient myth. Well, yes, it's the Bible. I mean, most people, less and less as time goes on, thanks partly to me, are less and less religious, but I mean, it's still mostly a religious country. Mostly people will say they believe in something. Now, shout out to my millennial friends. They're the first generation to be less than 50%, I think, who have a religious affiliation. The younger generations, more and more, are saying this is a bunch of bullshit. We don't need this to live a good life.
Well, what Bill forgets to say or mention is that as he tries to as he tries to convince, promote, push out atheism in America and probably around the world, especially around younger people. What he's not mentioning, and he should also take credit for that, is that we have the younger generation that tend to have experienced the most violent group. There are also struggle a lot with mental health. Suicide rate is extremely high among the same younger generation. Crime and all kinds of craziness. So, Bill, as you take credit for deceiving younger people not to believe in Jesus Christ or to believe that Jesus is a myth, you should also take credit for the menace of depression, anxiety, suicide among the same people. As I'm going to show you right now, there's a linkage when you depart from the truth, when you depart from the biblical truth and embrace, you make yourself your God. There comes a time you're going to hit that roadblock and you can't save yourself. Then what do? You get depressed. You think about ending your life. So, Bill, be sure to keep that in mind.
According to research by Barna Group, among Gen Z born between 1999 and 2015, rates of church attendance, religious affiliation, belief in God, prayer, and Bible reading have been dropping for decades. Compared to their counterparts a few decades ago, young adults today are more violent and less content with life. What are the consequences? High rate of depression and suicide. According to Business Insider, suicide is Gen Z's second leading cause of death. The suicide rate for people aged 10 to 24 increased by 56% between 2007 to 2017, according to new data from the CDC. When you take God out of private and public life, by default, you replace him with something else.
Absolutely. That's unquestionable. You become your God or you make something else your God. And how is it looking out for us here in America? Not so good. But I want you to pay attention to a former atheist, Dr. David Wood, really put this whole argument together because on one side, Bill Maher is saying that, look, Christianity is just a bunch of nonsense. Jesus is a myth. The Bible is just nothing. And he is appreciating the younger generation for saying, you know what, we don't need this whole garbage. So the question is, Bill, can't you see that when you deprive these people the opportunity to know Jesus, by default, you push them on the other side of darkness?
Isaac Newton, considered by many to be the greatest scientist of all time, was writing towards the end of the scientific revolution when he recorded an observation that rivaled his 3 laws of motion. Newton declared, "Atheism is so senseless and odious to mankind that it never had many professors." So, according to Newton, atheism is senseless, it's utterly foolish, and odious, it's repulsive. It's so senseless and odious that it never had many professors. But times have changed because many people today do profess atheism. How did this happen? Well, if we ask our atheist friends why atheism has been spreading rapidly in our time, they'll tell us that atheism is spreading because people are becoming smarter and wiser and more enlightened. As someone who's been In multiple mental hospitals, I can tell you that the world feels more and more like an insane asylum every single day.
Yep.
But let's see if we can figure this out. Maybe our good friend Bill Maher can help us. Mr. Maher, you're an atheist. You've been attacking God and Jesus and the Bible for decades. You've seen the world change over the years. Can you spot any glaring problems in society?
You know the reason why advertisers in this country love the 18 to 34 demographic? Because it's the most gullible.
The younger generation is characterized by extreme gullibility. Good to know.
A third of people under 35 say they're in favor of abolishing the police, not defunding, but doing away with a police force altogether.
The younger generation is so out of touch with reality that they cling to insane positions.
36% of millennials think it might be a good idea to try communism.
Sounds dumb to me.
Yep.
20% of Gen Z agree with the statement, society would be better off if all property was owned by the public and managed by the government. And another 29% say they don't know if that's a good idea.
Sounds really, really dumb.
So when you say you're old, you don't get it, get what? Abolish the police and the border patrol and capitalism and cancel Lincoln? No, I get it. The problem isn't that I don't get what you're saying or that I'm old. The problem is that your ideas are stupid.
Their ideas are stupid, but the younger generation is too dumb and gullible to realize it.
Let's remind ourselves what he said in light of what you just heard.
Less and less as time goes on, thanks partly to me, less and less religious. Shout out to my millennial friends. They're the first generation to be less than 50%, I think, who have a religious affiliation.
And Bill points out that this isn't just true of the younger generation. The entire nation has become so utterly moronic that we may not be able to solve the problems that we face.
Finally, new rule, before we tackle any of our daunting specific problems here in America, we have to figure out how a country can solve any problem if so many of its people are so intractably, astoundingly, mind-numbingly stupid.
We might need to just shut it down.
I mean, this country just might be empirically, verifiably too f***ing dumb to continue as an ongoing enterprise.
And what about the education system?
This country simply has no education standards anymore. They will let you out of a public high school and give you a diploma, and you don't have to actually know anything.
If you haven't seen this video, I highly recommend that you watch it. I'm going to have the link in the description, and this will clearly show you how we got to where we are right now. If you think about it, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, where this country was in terms of academic performance, in terms of crime, in terms of divorce rate or pregnancy, teen pregnancy, and all of that, you will trace it back to when they took prayer out of school and took 10 Commandments out of school. Essentially, since then, we've been raising a generation of young people. Most of them now are parents who were godless, who basically were their own gods, no accountability to a higher power. And their generation are feeling the effect of it, but it's not going well at all. When a huge population of young people see no value in their own lives, that they don't mind taking their own lives, we're in trouble.
So we become ignorant, stupid, and gullible.
Atheists, we're approaching a third of the population now. I shouldn't have to beg for this, for God's sake. The fastest growing religious group in the United States are nuns. No, not the kind who used to beat you with a ruler for being left-handed. I mean people who, when asked how much they want to be involved with a religion, say none. The unaffiliated share of the population, consisting of people who describe their religious identity as atheist, agnostic, or nothing in particular, has risen from 5% in 1972 to 15% in 2005 to 32% today. You're welcome.
Less and less as time goes on, thanks partly to me, less and less religious.
So we can thank people like Bill Maher for increasing the percentage of nuns from 5% in 1972 to 32% in 2023. If we can just escape the evil talons of Christianity, we'll get a new dawn of intellectual progress and scientific reasoning. Is that what's been happening? Does Bill Maher even hear what he's saying? Watch how easy this is to put together. On the one hand, Bill is boasting about the rise of atheism, the rise of the nuns, the decline of Christianity. Look at all the people who are becoming atheists. On the other hand, he's complaining about how stupid and gullible people have become. This generation just happens to be the generation that's turning away from Christianity and towards atheism. And the dumber they become, the more progress they think they're making. How do you get people to accept something that's senseless and odious? You need a generation that's programmed to accept senseless and odious ideas. Welcome to the idiocracy. I can't say it's what we need, but it's definitely what we deserve.
So true, but also so sad. We are in big trouble. The problem is that we keep pointing fingers. We think, oh, the more rational we are, or the smarter we get, perhaps we can address this. We keep pointing finger. Government, if government were to do this, if government were to pump more money into certain cities, perhaps the crime rate will reduce. If government were to start paying, free education for everybody from college to university, if government were to do this or were to do that. But the problem is that the more we keep pointing fingers in the wrong places, but we haven't really gone back to say, wait a minute, what exactly is wrong, until we get back to the basis where we say, you know what, we strayed away from God, we strayed away from the truth, we strayed away from Jesus Christ, the one that held the foundation of this nation together. We need to get back to the basis. Until we do that, all we will see is mayhem, problems, issues, and all kinds of immorality. That's where we are. And look, guys, atheism is not the solution. Science is not the solution. Logic, rational thinking, it is not the solution. If there were, why are we in such a mess? Christians are not perfect. A lot of people have hidden under Christianity to do all kinds of dumb, crazy, and terrible stuff. But that doesn't mean that Christianity is wrong, because when you open the Bible and read for yourself, listen to the words of Jesus, listen to the word of God. If we were to follow those principles, we wouldn't be where we are today. If we were to obey the laws of God, which, by the way, God put them there to protect our freedom, not to take our freedom away. But we feel like we can do whatever we want and we don't want to be accountable to anybody. How is it looking out for us? Jesus is the solution to our problem. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe. It all helps to get this message out. And again, remember that Jesus is alive.